Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Kacharni Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paskitari Satarni Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Wait to Gadadhar Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Just have to develop this attitude of appreciation for what's going on with spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. Just have to appreciate the magnitude of how this Krishna consciousness is developing and growing. It's wonderful. Just appreciate it. Just appreciate it. How wonderful Krishna is. Even if myself personally, I'm pretty useless. So what? I do what I can. You know? I mean, if there's Hanuman, and he's empowered to lift mountain peaks and toss them into the ocean to help make a bridge for Lord Ram to cross to Lanka to rescue Sita. I appreciate Hanuman. Oh, Hanuman, that's wonderful. Appreciate it. And then, you know, if you can, there's always, you know, the little spider who's trying to kick a couple grains of sand in. Lord Ramachandra assures that little kicking from that little spider with his little grains of sand is doing the best he can, all things considered. So that devotional mood is being accepted by the Lord. And the Lord says, just like I'm accepting your mood, Hanuman, I'm accepting the little spider with his little grains of sand. So, we're going to read. This is the little spider club here. We're going to read from the Bhagavatam. And this is Canto 5, Chapter 13, Text 16. And it's the very graphic, spare no niceties, descriptions and enlightenment about the nature of the material world, and it's just the straight sauce being given by Jad Bharat to Maharaj Rahugana. Jad Bharat at first gave him nice, very philosophical information, and Maharaj Rahugana says, I accept that, but I don't have any realization of what you're saying. I accept that it's true, but somehow it's not hitting home with me. I need something more. So Jad Bharat chastised him, called him a fool, and now he's given him some really graphic descriptions of what the material, so-called material life is really like. It's something like, I heard a nice little example some devotees gave one time about it's a beautiful spring day and the birds are chirping and the air is so delightful. And it just looks so wonderful. But if you really analyze what's going on, the bird that's chirping so nicely is killing and eating insects and the little worms and things, caterpillars. So for them, it's not such a nice day. And there are other things going on, a struggle for existence. One plant is growing in such a way that it's blocking the light from another plant. It can't get sunlight and it's drying up. And so, but it's a beautiful spring day. So that's what the material world is like. It looks on the surface like something enjoyable and something pleasant. But when you really get in close and you look at the actual activities, then it's really something quite other than that. So this is text 16. Sometimes the living entity in the forest of material existence takes shelter of creepers and desires to hear the chirping of the birds in those creepers. Being afraid of roaring lions in the forest, he makes friends with cranes, herons, and vultures. Yeah, the birds, like these cranes, herons, and vultures, they can indicate if there's a lion coming close, because they'll make sounds, and they follow. Evidently, the vultures follow a lion because they know he's going to kill something, and then there'll be leftovers. So he makes friends with these people who follow, who are tuned into death. It's Prabhupada's commentary. In the forest of the material world, there are many animals and birds, trees and creepers. Sometimes the living entity wants to take shelter of the creepers. In other words, he wants to be happy by embracing the creeper-like arms of his wife. Within the creepers there are many chirping birds. This indicates he wants to satisfy himself by hearing the sweet voice of his wife. In old age, however, he sometimes becomes afraid of imminent death, which is compared to the roaring lion. To save himself from lion's attack, he takes shelter of bogus swamis, yogis, and incarnations, pretenders, and cheaters. Being misled by the illusory energy, in this way he spoils his life. It is said, Harim vina mritim na taranti. No one can be saved from the imminent danger of death without taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Hari indicates the lion as well as the Supreme Lord. To be saved from the hands of Hari, the lion of death, one must take shelter of the Supreme Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People with a poor fund of knowledge take shelter of non-devotee, cheaters, and pretenders in order to be saved from the clutches of death. In the forest of the material world, the living entity first of all wants to be very happy by taking shelter of the creeper-like arms of his wife and hearing her sweet voice. Later, he sometimes takes shelter of so-called gurus and sadhus who are like cranes, herons, and vultures. Thus he's cheated both ways by not taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. So these are not really solutions to the real problem. It's two problems. One, he's lonely, and he wants some loving interchange. And the other is he's afraid of death. So the loneliness is there, and it is satisfied by devotional service to Krishna, because Krishna is the supreme friend, or even the supreme lover, depends on the mood and of service of the devotee. And Krishna never dies, and he's perfect, and he's always there in all circumstances, and he owns everything. So there's no question of ever being not having what you need. Krishna, if you're in relationship with Krishna through devotional service, and Krishna owns everything, that's a pretty good deal. So the loneliness is taken care of like that, a loving relationship with Krishna. And then if somebody wants a husband or a wife or a companion, whatever, they're there. Just find someone. But the actual loving relationship is with the Lord. And then these other relationships, they're there, companionship, and then should help each other to develop love for Krishna. So that's how the ideal situation. And then the other thing is, as the person gets older and their health starts to fail and they start to it starts to stare them in the face that, yes, death is coming, like a lion. Then they try to find some solution, and unfortunately they get cheated there also by taking shelter of persons who can't really protect them from death, because they haven't really even protected themselves from death. So how can they protect anyone else? And usually they make a living in this way by counseling and teaching and advising others for a fee, of course. That's how they make their livelihood. So the solution to all of these problems is surrender to Krishna. And Krishna's representative, then they won't be cheated. Either way, in loving relationship or at the time of death. Text 17. Being cheated by them, the living entity in the forest of the material world tries to give up the association of so-called yogi swamis in incarnation and come to the association of real devotees, but due to misfortune, he cannot follow the instructions of the spiritual master or advanced devotees. Therefore, he gives up their company and again returns to the association of monkeys who are simply interested in sense gratification and women. He derives satisfaction by associating with sense gratifiers and enjoying sex and intoxication. In this way, he spoils his life simply by indulging in sex and intoxication. Looking into the faces of other sense gratifiers, he becomes forgetful and thus approaches death. Whoa, this is a really unfortunate scenario. He's pointing out the situation of a person who actually tries to approach the bona fide representatives, but due to misfortune, he cannot follow the instructions of the spiritual master or advanced devotees. Wow, he's really putting this in Maharaj Rahugana's face. In other words, Jad Bharat is the advanced devotee. He is the spiritual master, and he is giving instructions to Maharaj Rahugana. And he's making it very clear that if Maharaj Rahugana rejects what he's saying, then this will be his fate. He will have to again, although he's showing some indication of wanting to make advancement in spiritual life, he's wanting to conquer death, he's wanting to become free from attachment to others for sense gratification, he's wanting to enter into the devotional atmosphere, prepare to go back home, back to Godhead. He's wanting that. He's come in contact with a devotee who can give him that. If he doesn't accept it, what's his fate? He again returns to the association of persons who are like monkeys. Again, he loses that opportunity. He becomes forgetful and he approaches death. So how important is it to take advantage of the association of the devotees when they're there, either through their books or if they have the good fortune to have their direct association, or to hear from those that have heard from them and are repeating without changing anything. That also, the potency is also there in that way. So we don't want to be a Maharaj Rahugana. Come so close to accepting the actual messenger and the actual message, and then somehow by misfortune slipping away. We don't want that. We don't want that. See, that's where the false ego gets in the way. False pride and false ego. When one really can understand If they're not this body, this material gross manifestation, or this material mind, they're actually a spiritual entity, and that the Lord is situated within the heart, this Paramatma feature. Understand the temporary nature of the material manifestation, the material body, then they can take advantage when they hear the actual messages of what activities are going on in the purified atmosphere. Who's there? What are they doing? And who's the creator and maintainer of everything? The nature of the spiritual world.